Are you ready for some football? I'm ready for some football. Here in Washington State, we take the Seahawks pretty seriously. What do guys like more than football? Meat, of course, but I'm not cooking everybody a steak. I'm making chili. Okay, I've got some of my ingredients laid out here. I've got a cream style corn, and I do not cook a spicy chili. It's more kind of like a sweet, savory chili because people in my house are wimps and they don't want spice. So I kind of go the opposite way. But there will be a little bit of spice in here because these tomatoes here have green chilies in them. So that'll give it a little spice, and to counteract that, I'll use the cream style corn. I got some tomato paste, some tomato sauce. I got these diced and fire roasted tomatoes with green chilies. This chili bean, and I do like this, it has a zesty tomato sauce with some spices in there, and I do like the flavoring of that. I got kidney beans and pinto beans. I'm gonna open all of these up and throw them into my crock pot here. This is a red pepper. I didn't use it all up, so I cut it up and I put it in the freezer. And as you can see, the color stays, it tastes really good, and you can use it over and over again. So I found that freezing your peppers works really well. I'm not a pepper fan, but I do like red pepper for color, and I do like having it in there for taste. So I'm gonna throw that in there. I'm gonna cook and season my ground turkey. I would prefer to use ground turkey than ground beef. And I can season it up to, nobody will even be able to tell the difference. I cook it in my cast iron pan, which gives it a really depth of flavor, and I add a lot of seasoning to help it along. So I'll show you how I do that. So let's get started. I've got a lot to do. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and I want to get this going so that we can eat around 1. Okay, so I've got everything opened up. I'm gonna put it in the crock pot, get it stirred up, and then start cooking my meat. Once I'm not draining anything. At this point, I'm not gonna add water, but I think a lot of the nutrients from the beans are in the juice that's in the can. So I would prefer to use that, and I think that the bean juice will help to thicken the chili. So I'm gonna let it cook down like that, and if later I need to add some liquid to it, I can do that, but I wanna get the flavors really working together. Okay, here is with all of the cans dumped in. So it hasn't thickened up yet, it's just straight out of the can. And that looks really nice. It's got a good mix of color. There's some tomato paste in there that still needs to work through. So now I'm gonna prep the meat and the stuff that I wanna saute to put in here. And I'm just gonna put the lid on this and let it start marinating together. Okay, I'm gonna chop up this onion really fine. I don't need the pieces uniform because I'm gonna saute this up, and it's actually, I prefer to have a bunch of different size pieces of onion, and I don't need it like finely chopped because they're gonna sweat down in the pan. Now these I will make into smaller pieces because really I'm using them for color and some taste, but I wouldn't prefer to get a big piece of red pepper in my mouth since I don't like it. And these were partially frozen, so they're pretty easy to cut. Okay, now that I've got all that cut up, I'm gonna go over to the stove and start sweating the onions down and the garlic, and then put in the red pepper. Okay, so I've got the onion in here, and I'm just gonna sweat these down, and when they're starting to get translucent, I'm gonna add the garlic. Okay, so the onions, they've cooked about a minute, and I'm gonna use quite a bit of garlic. My husband's not a fan of garlic, but it'll cook for a really long time, and I want to use up what's left in this jar. And it'll just give it a good flavor. It's probably 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. And just really cook that down. And really get everything cooked up well. And at this point, I'm going to put in the red peppers. And then let that cook all together. Make sure the onions are completely cooked, and then I'm going to transfer that over to the crock pot. You don't want to burn anything in here. You want to make sure that you're stirring it. Your temperature's not too hot, but hot enough that it's going to sweat this down. And the nice thing about doing this before you do the meat is it also will season the pan. Okay, and I put a couple tablespoons of olive oil in there. There's a little bit of garlic left, and I'm going to put the turkey meat in and start cooking that. So I've got the turkey meat in there, and I want to break it up and to really fine crumbles. And I really want to disperse that oil because the turkey doesn't have a lot of fat in it. So you want to make sure that the pieces are oiled up pretty well so they're not burning to the bottom of the pan. So I'm going to cook that for a little bit. And a secret to make turkey meat taste more flavorful and give it depth of flavor, I'm going to add a little of this crumbled bacon from Costco. Not a lot, about a half of a cup maybe. And that will add some fat, but it'll also add a depth of flavor to it. So I'm going to mix that in and let it continue to cook. Once it's brown, then I'm going to start seasoning it. I don't want it cooked all the way through when I'm seasoning, but I do want to get some of the fats going from the bacon and make sure that it's starting to cook down a bit. Okay, so it's cooking. I'm gonna now start seasoning this. I'm gonna do this onion soup mix, and I'm gonna cook it in with the meat so that it seasons the meat up, and then the onions that are in there. Remember, I only did a half of an onion for the whole pot of chili, so this will help to give it a little bit more onion and a depth of flavor from the onion. So I'm gonna mix that up really good. Make sure it's evenly seasoned. It's looking good. And see, that onion soup mix also browns it a little bit more, so it looks more like ground beef. So I've got that in there. I'm gonna add, I don't measure, so I'm gonna eyeball it. About a teaspoon of chili powder. I don't want too much because, like I said, my family is a bunch of wimps. And about a teaspoon of garlic powder. Secret ingredient, a little touch of nutmeg. Not that much, just like 1/8 of a teaspoon. And some cinnamon. About a half a teaspoon. And I'm just gonna mix that up really well. And I do also want some salt and pepper. And as the cook in the house, you know, it is your duty to taste along the way and make sure that everything's seasoned properly. So, you know, that does make a big difference. If you season along the way, at the end, it will be perfectly seasoned. So, but you need to continue to taste as it cooks, because the spices, if you're cooking in a crock pot, the spices will start to become not as strong, to dissipate. Okay, I'm also going to add just a touch of smoked paprika. It gives it a really nice smoky flavor. Not very much, just a few shakes. And kosher salt. You already watched me put pepper in. So it's important to always salt along the way as you're cooking. And so I think that this meat is done, and I'm gonna put it in the crock pot now. Okay, and I tried the meat and it tastes really good. It's very seasoned, but that's good because I did not season the actual beans and sauce in here. So as it cooks down in the crock pot, then the meat will work to season the rest of the chili. So it's all in there. It looks nice and thick, and I just want to let it cook down for the next 4 hours on high, and then I'm going to see where it's at, and I'll check it along the way about every hour and a half and see if it needs any seasoning, or how it tastes, if I need to add water or something to it. Okay, it's been about an hour, and I just added about a teaspoon of the chili powder and some cumin. The taste, it needs to be just a little bit spicy, and I'm going to continue to let it cook and add spices along the way and see how it is. But it's nice and thick. It tastes really good. I just want it to be a little bit more powerful, and I want some depth of flavor. Right now it's very tomato based, so I'm going to continue to season along the way, and I'll let you know as I add stuff. Okay, so it's 11:30. People are going to start showing up here in probably a half an hour. I had the chili on high, and now I'm just going to turn it on low and let it just simmer for another couple hours until we're ready to serve it. It tastes really good. So I ended up probably doing 2 teaspoons of chili powder. I put a little Montreal seasoning in there, and some cumin, probably 1 teaspoon of cumin, along with what I showed you earlier, and the taste is really good. Now I'm just gonna let everything just steep in there for another couple hours, and then we'll be ready. Everybody's watching football. We've got big scones. People are upstairs playing foosball and air hockey. And the chili's looking really good. Yummy. These scones got a little big. We're running another batch. And then, oh, she put holes in there and put butter and honey directly in there. I think that is a pumpkin and chocolate chip cake for dessert. I'm burning this Harvest Gathering candle. It smells really good. Got the fire going. Just hanging out. Everybody's in watching the game. The Seahawks are not winning right now, but it will change. Chili looks good. Looks yummy. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is my own recipe for chili. I made it up myself. What do you think?
No.
It's good.
Rating 1 to 5. What do you think?
2.
4?
Sorry, Mom.
4? Wow, Mom, you're a little rough. No. And I made it so it's not spicy, especially for you.
But my question is, we want to know if there's nutmeg in it.
It is.
Yes.
Nutmeg is a special secret.
4.5.
4.5?
And it's already gone. So what?
It's completely that whole.
What makes it a 5 for you, Caitlin?
You 5? Good chili? Is that good? A 5? Wow! All the kids, everybody loves it. A 10? Wow! I feel special. What do you think, Caitlin? It's all gone.
Whoa!
Are you serious? That's on film. I am putting that on YouTube.
What'd she do?
But she like shoved a bunch of cornbread in her mouth. Nice.
That's all me.
Caitlin May. I got a broom for you. It's got your name all over it.
Poppy will clean it up for her.
Oh, I'll remember that, Poppy.